Hey, thank you for watching. You know, I have such a special message I want to share with you. I love this time of year. You know, I'm a big goal setter, and I love closing out the year, just reviewing goals, reviewing dreams, things like that, but also planning and preparing for the new year. And you know, I read the book, you know, that popular book by Rick Warren called The Purpose-Driven Life. And in that book, he made this statement. He said he believes that we can surmise from the Bible that when we stand before God, God's going to ask us two questions. Number one, what did you do with my son Jesus? Number two, what did you do with the gifts and the talents I gave you? What did you do with what I gave you? In other words, gifts, talents, opportunities, relationships, resources, things like that. But think about that. Number one, what did you do with Jesus? Did you tell anybody about him? Did you share Jesus? Number two, what did you do with what I gave you? I gave you certain gifts and talents and opportunities. What did you do with it? You know, when I read that, I just really thought about it, and it made me just, you know, wonder, well, what are my gifts and talents, and what is it that God wants me to use? And you know, I think so many times we wonder, do I even have any gifts? Do I have any talents? Because sometimes you can look at some people who are so talented, and it's just obvious. Wow, look how talented they are. Musically, singing, athletics, writing, whatever it is. You can look at them and see their talent. It's very visible. But for most of us, I think that your gifts and your talents are those things that come so natural to you that you don't even think they're gifts. So I want to talk to you about your gift. You know, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, isn't it? But think about it. You have certain gifts and certain talents that God has given you that you probably haven't even recognized as a gift because it comes so natural to you. Like, for example, perhaps you have a gift for organizing, and you think just anybody can organize. You organize your closet, everything's color-coded and lined up. You organize the kitchen, you organize files, your bills are very organized. You just think anybody can do that. It's not anything special. That's a gift. That is a gift that God has given you. It doesn't just come natural. In fact, you know, New York Times best-selling author Julie Morgenstern has made a multi-million-dollar business out of organizing, something that you think just anybody can do. Or maybe you have a gift, you know, for baking. Trust me, this does not come natural to just anybody. I still haven't mastered the pancakes, but think about Marie Callender. She not only developed her gift for baking, but it made her very prosperous. Or Debbie Fields, at 20 years old, I was reading the story about her, said at 20 years old, she was, you know, just married and just a housewife. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But she felt like whenever she would go to these parties and people would ask her, you know, so what do you do? What do you do for a living? And she said so many times she would just go, well, I'm just a housewife. And she started feeling like, well, surely I have something to offer, something I can do. So she started just baking cookies. She's one smart cookie. She started baking cookies, turned it into this multi-million-dollar business, Mrs. Fields Cookies. Well, something that came natural to her that she thought anybody can bake cookies, that was actually a gift that God had given her to not only bring her before great men and women, but also to prosper her. And you know, that's why God gives us gifts, is to use them for His glory, to use them to bring us before great men and women, but to prosper us also. So I just want you to think about your gift. What are some of the gifts and the talents that God's given you? You know, like I said, this time of year, I love to just, you know, close out the year reviewing some of the goals that I set, but really preparing and planning for the next year. You know, Bobby Knight, he was the basketball coach at Texas Tech. He made this statement. He said, the will to succeed is important, but what's more important is the will to prepare. In other words, you prepare for what God's called you to do. And what I mean by that is you need to expose yourself to new places, new books, new people, new relationships. You need to expose yourself to new things. One of the things I've learned over the past probably 10 years is to never stop learning. Never stop growing, stretching yourself, learning new things, you know, developing your gifts to a greater degree. You know, I read lots of books, and I've heard so many times leaders are readers. But when you start exposing yourself to new CDs, new books, things that cause your mind to be stretched, to open up. Imagine hearing a whole message on discovering and developing your gifts. The more you hear that, the more you begin to recognize those things that come natural to you or things that bring you joy. Another way to discover your gift is things that anger you. Those things that make you so mad and you wish something would change. Then maybe God's raising you up to use a gift to make a change there. Use that gift. Well, that comes about as you expose yourself to new places, new opportunities, new people, new books, things like that. But I want you to take this time to prepare. In other words, get your hands on some new CDs. In fact, we're offering a special packet this time of year. We have Your Calling is Calling. That's something the Lord said to me in my quiet time one day. He said, your calling is calling. You can either answer it or you can just ignore it. But God has a calling on your life, and I believe it's time you answer it. So we have this special product, but also I don't know if it's 2 or 3 CDs called Your Gift. And this is to help you discover and develop your gift. You know, you don't get to decide your gift, you discover it. But God wants you to know exactly what He put you on this earth to do. And I'm believing not only are you going to educate yourself more in the area of your gifts, your calling, your purpose, but then you're going to set some new goals to begin pursuing them this coming year. Don't repeat this next year what you did this year. We should always be coming up higher. But I don't believe that happens without a plan. So I want to encourage you to get these CDs, not only for yourself, but share them with your friends. And then we also have another CD included called The Power of Now. And that's all about conquering procrastination. How many times do we say, you know, I'm going to do that tomorrow. But like Jimmy Lyon said, tomorrow is the only day in the year that appeals to a lazy man. We don't want to be lazy. We want to do what God put us on this earth to do. So 2 questions. Number 1, what'd you do with my son Jesus? Number 2, what'd you do with the gifts and the talents that God gave you? Think about that. I believe that this next year is going to be far greater than the year right now. I believe you're going to come up higher. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.